What happens when hope runs out and there's nothing left to hold on to? What do you do when life takes something you can never replace? And what if, in the middle of your deepest loss, something unexpected steps in? There are moments in life that feel final, moments where no explanation can ease the pain, no words can undo what has happened. Loss has a way of silencing everything. It leaves questions without answers and hearts without direction. Imagine a woman walking slowly through a crowd, surrounded by people, yet completely alone in her grief. She has already known loss before. She has already endured the absence of someone she once depended on, and now she faces it again, but this time it feels heavier, deeper, final. Her only son is gone. For her, this is not just emotional pain, it is the collapse of her future. In her world, this loss carries more than sorrow. It carries uncertainty, vulnerability, and a kind of loneliness that cannot easily be explained. Everything she had left to hold on to has just been taken away. The crowd moves with her, but no one can carry what she feels inside. Grief is like that. It isolates, even when people are present. It creates a distance that words cannot bridge. People can comfort, they can support, but they cannot remove the weight. And as she walks, there is no expectation of change. No thought that anything different could happen. This moment feels sealed, finished, but something unexpected is approaching. Another group is coming from the opposite direction. Not mourning, not grieving, but moving with purpose. At the center of it, someone who sees what others overlook. Where most see a situation that is beyond help, he sees something else. He sees her. Not just the situation, not just the loss, but her. And this matters. Because often in moments of pain, people feel invisible. Like their suffering is just another story, another event in a world full of problems. But to be seen, to truly be seen, changes something. Before anything happens, before any action is taken, there is recognition. And then there is compassion. Not distant concern, not polite sympathy, but deep, genuine compassion that moves toward the pain instead of away from it. This is where the story shifts. Because compassion is not passive. It does not stand still, it steps in. There is no request made. No one asks for help. There is no expression of faith, no reaching out, no expectation. And yet, something happens. This is important, because it shows that sometimes help comes even when we do not know how to ask for it. Sometimes intervention comes in moments when we feel completely empty. He approaches the situation directly, not avoiding it, not keeping distance, but moving closer to what others might step away from. And then, something unexpected is spoken. Words that do not deny the pain, but challenge its finality. Do not weep. At first, this might seem impossible. How can someone not weep in a moment like this? How can sorrow be interrupted? But these words are not dismissing the pain. They are pointing to something beyond it. Then comes an action that changes everything. He touches what others would avoid, what others would consider untouchable. And in that moment, everything pauses. Attention shifts. The crowd stops. Time feels suspended. And then a command is given. Not loud, not dramatic, but filled with authority. A call for life where there had been none. And something impossible happens. What was still moves. What was silent responds. What was gone returns. The shift is immediate. The change undeniable. Where there was grief, there is now shock. Where there was mourning, there is now awe. The crowd witnesses something they cannot explain. But beyond the event itself, there is something deeper happening. The restoration is not just physical, it is relational. A son is returned to his mother. The connection that was lost is restored. And in that moment, everything changes. The future that seemed gone reappears. The emptiness that felt permanent is filled. The story that looked finished continues. This moment reveals something powerful, that what seems final may not always be, that what feels irreversible may not be the end. But this is not just about one event. It is about perspective. Because in life there are many kinds of loss, not always physical, sometimes emotional, sometimes relational, sometimes internal, dreams that fade, relationships that break, hope that disappears. And in those moments it can feel like everything is over, like there is no way forward, like nothing can change. But this story challenges that. It shows that there is a possibility beyond what we see, a reality beyond what we understand. It invites a different way of thinking, not ignoring pain, not pretending everything is fine, but recognizing that there may be more than what is visible. There is also something significant about the timing. The intervention happens at the point where everything seems concluded, not before the loss, not during uncertainty, but at the moment when it appears complete. This speaks to moments in life when things feel too far gone, when the situation seems beyond repair, when hope feels unnecessary because the outcome seems certain. And yet, even there, something can happen. This does not mean every situation will change in the same way, but it does mean that finality is not always as absolute as it appears. There is also a lesson in compassion, because the response is not based on worthiness or request. It is based on care, a willingness to step into someone else's pain, to not ignore it, to not avoid it, but to engage with it. This is something that can be applied, not in the same way, not with the same power, but with the same intention. To notice people, to see beyond the surface, to recognize when someone is hurting, and to respond with care instead of distance. Because sometimes what people need most is not a solution, but presence. Not answers, but understanding. The story also invites reflection on how we view situations. Do we see only what is in front of us? Or are we open to the possibility that something more can happen? Do we define outcomes based only on current reality? Or do we leave space for change? This does not remove logic or reasoning, but it expands perspective. It allows room for hope even when circumstances suggest otherwise. And hope is powerful, not because it guarantees outcomes, but because it changes how we move forward. It keeps us from giving up too soon, from closing doors that may not be fully shut, from accepting endings that may not be final. There is also something to be said about the crowd. They witness the moment, they see the change, and their response is not quiet. It spreads. What they experience becomes something they share. Because moments like this cannot be contained. They shift understanding, they challenge expectations, they create new awareness, and that awareness moves outward. This is how impact grows. Not just through events, but through what people do with them, how they interpret them, how they carry them forward. So again, the question becomes personal. What are you facing that feels final? What situation seems beyond change? What loss feels too heavy to move past? And in that space, are you open to something different? Are you willing to consider that what you see may not be the whole picture? That what feels like the end may not be the end? This is not easy. It requires a shift, a willingness to hold both reality and possibility at the same time, to acknowledge pain while still allowing room for hope. And that balance is powerful, because it keeps you grounded but not stuck, aware but not defeated, present but not without direction. Life will always bring moments of uncertainty, moments where answers are not clear, where outcomes are not guaranteed. But in those moments, perspective matters, and sometimes the most important thing is not what you see, but what you are willing to believe beyond it. Thank you for watching this video. If this message spoke to you, don't forget to like, follow the channel, and share it with someone who needs encouragement today. Your support helps spread this message of hope and restoration to more people. And be sure to watch the full video to go deeper into this powerful perspective.